Hello, kindly people of YouTube. Punk Rock Fairy Princess here. Today, we're going to do something a little more structured. I really need to stop doing this intro. It does not... Okay, it's intro sequence.
The greatest stories ever told have a hero who must be bold. They learn a sense of right and wrong, and better learn the sense through song.
It's not a secret that the guy who didn't like musicals has a lot of meta elements in it. Starkids shows in general are known for breaking the fourth wall fairly often and having a fair number of meta elements in them. By which I mean in this case that it calls attention to the elements of musical theater like choreography and breaking into song and makes them explainable by the plot. People are breaking into song and they all know the choreography because they're all being controlled by the hive. It also does this with storytelling elements in general, in particular the character want, which in this video I'm going to call like the capital W character want. In character-driven plots, stories where the plot is driven forward almost entirely by the main character's actions, the character want is the thing that motivates those actions. In musicals, this is usually expressed in the I Want song, which usually takes place early in the show. The song basically explicitly outlines the want that needs to be brought across more implicitly in other media, like books. The guy who didn't like musicals calls attention to this want through the main antagonist of the musical, the Hive, whose main goal it is to make Paul the protagonist of their musical.
The star of the show!
And to do this, they need to know what his character want is. At first they see if his want is to improve the world in la-di-da-da-day, presumably because when the comet crashed on Earth, he was talking to the Greenpeace girl. An interesting side note here, in this song we see how the Hive manipulated the wants of some of the smaller characters, like the Greenpeace girl who wants to save the planet.
Do you want to save the planet?
There's just one way you can do
By
it.
singing a song.
Singing a song.
Singing along.
And for the homeless man, it's a better life, basically.
Song takes all the pain away.
This doesn't seem to motivate Paul all that much, so he's able to escape the Hive, and they decide then to infect his boss, Mr. Davidson, and just like straight up ask him in what do you want, Paul? Here we get more explanation for the Hive's need to find a capital W character want, which doubles as an explanation for both the I Want song and the character want element in general.
So what do you want, Paul? What's that one concrete goal that motivates all your action?
I don't think I have one of those.
Well, then how's anyone supposed to sympathize with you, Paul?
However, Paul doesn't really have any concrete wants, he just kind of wants what everyone else wants.
I don't know, I want what anyone wants. Money, a partner, kids someday, maybe.
And so he's able to escape the Hive again. Now, at last, Paul says that there is something that he wants.
Please, God, I just want a black coffee!
So the Hive jumps in again, this time with a cup of roasted coffee. But this doesn't work. Why? Because Paul doesn't drink the coffee. Even though his stated goal of going to Beanie's was to get coffee, once he gets there, we as the audience see that he's really there to see Emma. Which is why cup of roasted coffee doesn't work on him, and he and Emma are able to escape. So when, after Not Your Seed, the Hive says,
Yet you, Paul, have defied us thrice.
that's what they're talking about. La-di-da-da-day, what do you want, Paul, and cup of roasted coffee. The 3 times he was able to defy their attempts to manipulate his want and infect him. Now, at this point in the video, you might be saying, so what about songs like Show Us Your Hands, You Tied Up My Heart, Not Your Seed? I mean, obviously Let It Out is about Paul, but what about all the other songs? Well, you asked that question at exactly the right time, because it goes straight into my next point. Did you read my notes? So once the Hive realizes that it can't go after Paul's concrete wants because it doesn't really seem to have any, he goes after the people surrounding him and the people he cares about because they do have concrete wants. Many of them are stated right from the beginning of the show. For example, in the first scene he's in, Bill says,
I just want my daughter back.
Many of the other characters also have clear desires. Mr. Davidson, iconically, wants to be choked by his wife.
Carol, my love, I want you to choke me out at night.
And Charlotte wants to repair her relationship with Sam.
I wanted to make things work with Sam.
Ted, General McNamara, and Professor Higgins' desires are a little bit less explicit, so I'll just go into them as we go along. Like I said, the Hive goes after them in an attempt to have Paul have a conscious desire because, I mean, obviously, unconsciously, he wants things, but he doesn't consciously want them, if you know what I mean. I guess there's something about being in life or death situations that could make one prioritize things in their head better, which could be a part of the Hive's strategy here. This also presents an interesting limit on the Hive's powers. They can't manipulate a desire that Paulo doesn't realize he has, so they have to first make him kind of realize and admit to it before they can manipulate it, which I think is really interesting. So after Emma and Paul escape Beanie's, they meet up with Ted, Charlotte, and Bill, and then we have the song Show Me Your Hands, which is the Hive's first attempt to get to Charlotte because it uses Sam. But this doesn't work, or at least it doesn't seem to work, because when Ted smashes Sam's head in with a garbage can lid, the other two cops just kind of fuck off, I guess. They just kind of leave. An alternate way of reading this is that the Hive intentionally let Sam get caught so that he could easier get to Charlotte. Then the gang is in Higgins' apocalypse bunker, and Sam is left alone with Charlotte, which is the perfect opportunity for him to get to her. Notice here how he doesn't regain consciousness until Charlotte says,
But I didn't want him to die. Please, God, just let him wake up. Just let him wake up.
The Hive sees that Charlotte's want is tied up with Sam. Pun kind of intended. Here specifically expressed in not wanting him to die. And therefore, Sam is of use to them, or was always of use to them because he was planted there. Whichever fan theory you would prefer. Throughout You Tied Up My Heart, the Hive goes through a couple of options to pinpoint what Charlotte's want is. First, they appeal to her nostalgia of a better time between her and Sam.
The keys to our youth. God, we were young once, innocent and fun once, and free.
Then Sam begs for Charlotte to forgive him and apologizes for his behavior.
I effed up, Charlotte. Effed up with you. Will you ever forgive me? I'll crawl on my hands and knees.
And then finally, this part.
But it's not gonna last. The air is cold and thick. I'm losing my last remaining hope for us. My hands are tied in knots and I can't come home. I wanna die in your arms in the evening alone.
It is the fear of losing Sam and her want to be wanted. He says he wants to die in her arms in the evening glow, thus he wants her, that finally prompts Charlotte to let Sam go, and then she's infected. Join Us and Die doesn't really have anything to do with any character's particular desires, though I suppose it could be more of a scare tactic, because like I said earlier, fear sometimes makes one prioritize and be honest with their priorities, I guess. It may also suggest a change in strategy, as Higgins says.
These things, their tactic is to hide amongst us, and as their numbers grow, they become more bold, and as we've seen, violent.
Right, so now we move on to Bill and Paul going to rescue Alice in the song Not Your Seed. What is particularly interesting about Bill is that the Hive doesn't manipulate his want, per se, but manipulates his guilt over not getting his want, which is a better relationship with his daughter, as well as his inability to understand Alice and what she wants.
Did you know that I wanted to live with you? Whoa, and when you needed to fight, you gave her that too.
Whether or not uninfected Alice really wanted this is not exactly relevant because it's enough to get to Bill whether or not it's true. This approach of the Hive to get to Bill doesn't have the end goal of the Hive killing him, but has the end goal of him killing himself, which is an especially cruel strategy. But Paul gets in the way of that, only temporarily, saving his life. R.I.P. So why doesn't the Hive kill Paul here? they have a weapon and they have ample opportunity. But at this point, the fight is more personal.
This puny human weapon is too quick a death for you, Paul. We shall rend you limb from limb. You shall choke on your agony as you beg for apotheosis.
And like I said before, I don't think they can infect him until they know what he wants. The Hive's delay in killing him here allows the army to like sweep in and save him. Was that intentional on the part of the Hive? Perhaps. They didn't know his want yet, so he couldn't be their protagonist yet, so maybe they just let him go? So back at Higgins' bunker, Emma and Higgins are trying to figure out how to defeat the Hive when we realize that Higgins may have other intentions.
You could also say it's uniting us in one common purpose. Think, Emma, if this entity were to spread to the entire planet, why, it could achieve what over 50,000 years of human civilization never could. World peace.
What is interesting about Higgins is that he is already on the Hive's side even before he is infected, which I think has something to do with his disillusionment with humanity in general.
Protecting us from what, Emma? From the end of the world? What's protecting us from nuclear holocaust, climate change, overpopulation, Emma? The world was already doomed. Not by them, but by us. I was trying to save something that could not be saved.
And also possibly his love for musical theater. Professor Higgins has a few motivations. The first one's revealed in this scene with Emma when he thinks that the Hive is the means to his end of saving the world. But Higgins doesn't only care about, saving the world. He also has some more self-serving desires. In Show-Stopping Number, we know that he wants his musical to have success, but more importantly, he wants to reconnect with his friends from the past. It's clear that Working Boys is at least partly based on his own life, given the way he reacts to Stu and Greg, or who he thinks are Stu and Greg, coming into the bunker. And it is this desire that finally lets the Hive infect him fully, because he's already on their side, but he's actually infected, because as we know, it's not actually Stu and Greg.
Stu! You haven't aged a day!
Just some random people who infect him. We don't get to know a ton about General McNamara before he is infected, but we do know that he cares about people.
I follow a higher law than any institution could decree, and that is the universal truth of love and the strength of the human heart.
He doesn't kill Paul, even though he was ordered to kill everyone in Hatchetfield to make sure the Hive didn't spread, and he also gives Paul the opportunity to save Emma as well. We gain more insight into General McNamara once he's been infected in America is Great Again, specifically at the end of the song when he's the only one left on stage and seems to reflect upon himself for a moment.
No answers to be found.
Slight Black Friday spoilers for just a sec here. We know that General McNamara has some connection and some resistance to the opponents that he faces. Like in Black Friday, he's able to reach through to Lex from the Black and White. So this could be a moment of him trying to break free of the Hive's control of him, and the Hive pushing down his consciousness and telling him that the Hive can make his country great again and that he shouldn't question it, that there are no answers to be found. Well, we don't know how General McNamara was specifically infected. We know the want that drew him in, the want to make his country better. Ted is infected during America is Great Again, and while he's not the most likable character, he does seem to genuinely care about Charlotte, even though he has a bit of a weird way of showing it. And when she is finally infected by the Hive, this messes with his head a bit and makes him question a lot about himself.
Today has broken me. I'm ashamed of how I acted earlier. And Paul, I wish I could be brave, like you. I am gonna be a better person because today has taught me something, and it's what's really important in this life. And it's the people you care about.
And while I guess we could go into the complexities of Ted's character, let's be entirely honest, his main motivation is self-preservation.
Just save me! I'm the only one that survived! Everyone else is dead!
And he's infected when he tries to save himself. So now that everyone but Emma and Paul have been infected, let's take a look at what Paul wants. From the beginning, we're quite clear on what Paul does not want.
Yeah, I don't want to though. I don't want to give my money to some corporate chain.
Uh-huh.
I've been here my whole life. Born and bred. Never wanted to leave. Still don't.
Which I suppose could be flipped to opposites so that we know what he wants. He wants to not hang out with his colleagues. He wants to support local businesses and see Emma. And he wants to stay in Hatchetfield. But for the purpose of this thing, video essay? Is this a video essay? This is a video essay. We're going to stick with concrete wants that could drive a plot forward because that's what the Hive wants in Paul.
It consumes a man with a passion to drive the primary plot.
We do get hints to what Paul wants. For example, Mr. Davidson suggests
Something you pine for.
and in the opening number, Emma sings.
After a cute little barista.
But as I said before, the Hive doesn't seem to be able to use people's unconscious wants that the person has not admitted to themselves yet. And we don't get an explicit capital W want from Paul until General McNamara presses him on his relationship with Emma.
Friends don't move my heart, son. Is there a chance at something more?
I think so. I'd like there to be. I want there to be.
Side note, there are people who theorize, and by people, I mean me, I theorize, that General McNamara was already infected at this point, which is why he was so insistent on figuring out what his relationship with Emma was. But that theory is not essential to this point, so we're just gonna move on. So Paul wants something, but is this his character driving capital W plot spurring forward want? I mean, wanting to be with someone is not an uncommon character want. See every dramatic romantic movie or rom-com ever. But I don't think it is, because when we get to Let It Out, which is basically Paul's I Want song, he doesn't mention Emma. And in the song, what he wants is to be happy.
I've never been happy. Wouldn't that be nice? Is this the secret? Singing and dancing through life.
And what is especially interesting about this song is that it shows kind of this internal struggle between infected Paul and not infected Paul, which we didn't really get to see for the other characters, whether that was because Paul is the main character or because Paul has more resistance to the Hive, which is also why I like this song so much, in which the infected part of Paul is trying to convince him that to be happy, to get what he wants, he needs to submit to the Hive. Which really is what the Hive does. It takes the desires of its victims and makes them think that the way to get what they want is to join the Hive. And if this sounds familiar to anyone who's seen Black Friday, I don't think that similarity is unintentional. This doesn't mean that he doesn't want to be with Emma, it's just that through Emma he sees a way that he can be happy. And I think that he didn't even realize he was unhappy before this. I mean, he has people he cares about, especially Bill, but also Charlotte and Ted, maybe even. But he was kind of stuck in a life without change, which maybe at the time was what he thought that he wanted. But then he met Emma, and through his interactions with her, he sees an opportunity to be truly happy. And all this focus upon what Paul wants makes his sacrifice at the end so much more tragic, because he's just started admitting to himself what he wants and sees a way of getting that, and he has to almost immediately sacrifice it to destroy the Hive. Like he says before Let It Out.
It doesn't matter what I want.
And to add even more angst to this idea, if you subscribe to the theory that the victims of the Hive can see what they're doing when they're infected,
Your own body is your front row seat.
Paul then has to watch himself go after Emma and make her a part of the Hive. The Hive manipulates his want with this line.
To know what I want now.
Know what you want now.
Emma, I want you to join the party.
His want to be with Emma is manipulated into the Hive's need for Emma to be part of the Hive. Emma, I want you to join the party. Emma's want to leave Hatchetfield is manipulated into giving her a false sense of security. She isn't infected until like a week after the Hatchetfield tragedy. And Paul's want is manipulated into infecting Emma. And that's how the show ends. Throughout this video, I've avoided any theorization or speculation as to why the Hive wanted Paul to be their protagonist and what importance he serves in the Hatchetfield trilogy at large, mostly because I wanted to focus on this very specific topic, and also I'm really bad at making fan theories. But rest assured, I am thinking about it as much as any other person in Starkid fandom is. Yeah, I really liked this format of video. I think I might do these more often. I basically just wrote like a 7-page essay about Starkid, which, I mean, I'm an English major and I love Starkids, so what the fuck else should I be doing with my life? So expect some possible future similar videos to this. Maybe not specifically about Starkid, but, you know, in this video essay format. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all later. Bye!